The stars, once a velvet tapestry of shimmering light, were now blinking out one by one like dying embers in a cold hearth. To most people, it was just a bad omen, a sign of a long winter to come. But to Elara, it was a tragedy written in the cosmos. She spent her days in the ruins of the great observatory, her fingers tracing the cool, etched brass of an ancient astrolabe. She wasn't seeking gold or power, but something far more precious. A myth whispered through generations, the Astral Bloom. Legend told of a flower that grew not from soil, but from pure, concentrated starlight. It was said to bloom only once every 1,000 years, when the heavens aligned in a moment of perfect, sacred geometry. Its appearance, the stories claimed, could restore the fading light of the universe. Elara believed it was real, and she had dedicated her life to finding it. One evening, as she pored over star charts, her solitude was broken. A man named Kaelen appeared, his skin a canvas of tattoos depicting maps of places that no longer existed. He threw a heavy, leather-bound scroll onto her desk. "The Starseeker's Ledger," he whispered, his voice raspy. "I found it in the sunken library. It holds the coordinates for the bloom, but it's written in a language of shadows." Together, they dedicated themselves to deciphering the cryptic text. For weeks, they worked tirelessly, piecing together the fragmented lore. They discovered that the Astral Bloom's birth required a rare celestial event known as the Syzygy of the 5 silvers. This was a moment when their world's 5 moons would align perfectly, creating a bridge of pure lunar energy. This ethereal bridge, the ledger explained, would illuminate a hidden path to a place called the Garden of Infinity. Their journey began immediately. They crossed the vast, unnervingly still sea of glass and navigated the treacherous, echoing canyons. In these canyons, the wind whistled in strange, melodic frequencies that seemed to mimic the music of the spheres. It was there that Elara had a profound realization. The ancient lore wasn't just a collection of stories, it was a complex set of instructions. "The stars aren't just light," she explained to Kaelen, as they began their ascent up the towering Frost Peak Mountains. "They are vibrations, cosmic frequencies, the bloom. It must be the physical manifestation of a perfect chord played by the universe itself." As they reached the summit of the tallest peak, the air grew thin and bitingly cold. But looking up, they saw the sky beginning to shift. The 5 moons had started their slow, rhythmic dance, gliding toward the zenith in a majestic celestial ballet. The ground beneath their feet began to pulse with a faint, ethereal blue light. Using the ancient star charts and the astrolabe, Elara calculated their exact position. As the moons moved, their combined shadows began to form a shape on the snowy ground map, made not of light, but of darkness. "There," Kaelen pointed, his voice filled with awe. At the very center of the shadow map, a tiny sprout was emerging from the frozen earth. It didn't look like any plant they had ever seen. It looked more like a fracture in reality, leaking a substance that shone like liquid silver. Then, in a single, silent moment, the 5 moons clicked into their final, perfect alignment. The sprout erupted, exploding into a magnificent flower made of crystalline petals. Each petal seemed to hold an entire nebula within it, swirling with color and light. The center of the flower was a vortex of pure golden energy. This was the Astral Bloom. Touching the bloom didn't grant Elara a wish or bestow any magical powers. Instead, it flooded her mind with a concept she could only describe as the universal harmony. In that instant, she saw it all, the intricate connection between the smallest grain of sand on their world and the largest, most distant galaxy. As she watched, the dimming stars in the sky above began to pulse with renewed vigor, as if drawing energy from the bloom's magnificent opening. they finally understood. The quest was never about possessing the flower. It was about witnessing it. By following the ancient lore and simply being there to observe, Elara and Kaelen had become the conscious observers the universe needed to sustain its own beautiful pattern. The harmony was restored, not by some grand act of magic, but by the simple act of remembering and honoring the forgotten language of the stars. As the moons drifted apart, their celestial bridge dissolving, the astral bloom gracefully withered away. It left behind a single, shimmering seed. Elara carefully picked it up and tucked it away, a silent promise that no matter how dark the night becomes, the light will always find a way to return. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more adventures into the unknown.